Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Dr. Steph Stripling. She is a co-owner and CEO of Workplace Training Solutions, an educator, a very educated person herself, with a doctorate from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and her research focused on professional identities in higher education. As for our Workplace Training Solutions, it provides customized workshops for small businesses on diversity, microcredentialing, and emotional intelligence. Welcome to the show, Dr. Steph.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. And not just in India, I'm sure a lot of people across the world will benefit from what you will be teaching us today in this masterclass. You are the master in today's masterclass. So we'll be talking about, about creating a winning workplace culture. You train a lot of organizations, its employees into this. To understand from you, for the audience, Dr. Steph, what is a winning workplace culture in the first place?
So with the research that I've been doing recently, especially since the pandemic, we've noticed that there has been a significant change in expectations in the workforce, and there have been some tensions between employers and employees that company culture clearly impacts. So one of the things is with 2023 company culture, one of the biggest challenges is how to kind of build those relationships and prioritize employee retention through company culture by creating a space where everyone feels safe, everyone feels like they can contribute, everyone is encouraged to be a part of a team that is working toward a common goal. And I help people identify strategies to implement change in their company culture if that isn't a space that exists right now.
Right, Dr. Steph. So let's come down to one very important factor that we are trying to solve or deal with. And one is, and in the backdrop of this great resignation and quiet quitting, all these things happening right now, whatever it is, a big thing that is being discussed everywhere is about emotional intelligence. And your company also, provides training solutions into including emotional intelligence. So what I want to understand from you, Dr. Steph, is that why do employees with high IQ who are being hired, they need to be trained outside about emotional intelligence? Means, why can't the people who hire them, they also test them for emotional intelligence and then take it forward? Secondly, at the same time, because these are so interrelated, is that emotional intelligence is born with us, it's part of us as a human being. Why do we forget it? We remember it when we are with our families, but we forget it as the employees. And then we need to come to a place like Workplace Training Solutions and learn about it. Help us understand about these intricacies of something very natural, that is the emotional intelligence, that we need to be trained for it.
Well, I mean, I think that part of it is that you're right. The family culture is completely different from the company culture, and we're kind of it's ingrained into us to be able to communicate and build relationships with our family members. That is a cultural expectation, but that expectation doesn't necessarily exist in the workplace, and especially starting with the mid 20th century, probably even before that, maybe even late 1800s. The culture of a company really has been employer versus employee. There's a hierarchy there, and the employer is the boss, and the employee has to do what the boss says. And that's not how it works in a family necessarily. That's usually in the family, people are listening to one another, and it's not just a top-down dynamic. So the idea of kind of embracing company culture in 2023 is really to create that family atmosphere that isn't necessarily different. It's not really a new learning as far as being able to be emotionally intelligent. Some people are better at that. Some people need a little bit more support in that area. Some people need a little bit more guidance in how to create a family relationship within their company.
Okay, okay. How do you train them for emotional intelligence? Is it some medicine that you make them gulp down? Is it something like a COVID vaccine that you inject it? How does it work?
There is,
Have you lost it?
yeah, there's
How
no magic pill with EQ. Unfortunately, we can't just give you a little shot and magically make your relationships with your employees and employers better. But what we can do is we can provide you with different strategies. So we like to play some games. We like to do some role playing. We like to do kind of scavenger hunt activities where people are trying to learn about roles that are beyond the scope of what they're paid to do, but they can understand more fully what the company is about and who's there and how it works. And then we also really prioritize the micro-credentialing concept. So we do create and provide a service where there are e-badges or e-certificates that people can earn. We can set them up for companies so that they can kind of reinforce these smaller skills, these micro skills, maybe not things they needed to learn if, say, they're an engineer and they went to college for engineering. Engineering colleges don't traditionally teach emotional learning or emotional intelligence in their classrooms. And so it just needs to be supplemented. And a way to do that is to reinforce, okay, well, you did this really good thing that contributes. You have embraced a culture of diversity. You've managed to go out of your way to be inclusive. You consider people who might need accessibility issues, might have accessibility issues, maybe we aren't thinking about unless we consider other people's perspectives. And so we offer these little micro credentials so people can actually post them on. I'm sure everyone in your audience is probably very familiar with e-badges and micro credentials, but they can take them and post them on their LinkedIn page. It's a visual criteria, a visual reminder that they have accomplished a task and mastered a skill. And just that simple thing is super powerful because then it makes the employee feel like they have a little bit more power over who they are in the company.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Steph, I don't know about micro-credentialing, and for the audience, please help us understand this. And it sounds very interesting, these two words, help us understand so that, for the larger audience, everybody understands this.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the micro-credentialing game since 2015. When I first heard about it, I was an instructor at Clemson University at the time. And I had gone to a conference to learn about how to help faculty become better at teaching, at the teaching part of their job. And one way that was presented at this conference to help faculty become better at teaching was that they offered these micro credentials and in the classroom space themselves. And that way the faculty members could actually understand what skills to align with which assessments. It's how I got involved in it. But what a microcredential is it is an acknowledgement. It is a certified, legally binding, technically, ethically binding acknowledgement that this person has made the effort to master a specific element of their life, whatever that might look like, whether it's in education or whether it's in the workplace. Both places now are starting to offer these credentials. They're little images that are created. They're not NFTs, but they're kind of close, where you have these little images that are created specific for your organization, and then you create criteria for people to have to be able to earn the badge. So kind of like scouts, maybe, would be the easiest translation. So you're trying to collect badges the way we did in Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts here in the States. And then it just makes you feel better. It makes the person who took the time to learn new skills feel more accomplished, and it gives them something tangible in a virtual world, tangible to present to the world beyond them, to say, hey, look, this is something I did, and they can brag about it. So those kind of incentivizing strategies are kind of built into micro-credentialing.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, helping us understand that part of it. Now, coming back to the emotional intelligence part, why I bring it back again is that we also talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes.
And emotional intelligence or emotional EQ is so linked with that.
Yes.
How do you, and we have to accept that there is a lack of emotional intelligence or emotional quotient in our workplaces. That is why so many places, including, workplace training solutions, are helping them. So how do you calibrate the lack of emotional intelligence with the requirement of diversity, equity, and inclusion into our workplaces? How do you do it when you lack some important component called emotional intelligence? How is that working out? What is the future looks like at the present? And that is where, we are talking about what does the company culture look like in 2023? If you ask me, this is what the situation looks like in 2023. Going forward, I would like to see it better. But with the way our societies, our workplaces are moving, with the lack of emotional quotient and intelligence, so much of training needed, I don't know what it will be next year and the year after that. Help us understand this path so that we can be a bit more hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a challenging question. Thank you for that. I think that one of the, let me process. Hold on. I do agree 100%. The relationship between emotional IQ or emotional DEQ, emotional intelligence, and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, they are quite interlinked, especially in 2023. We saw here in the United States, and there were some global events as well in the years 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic, where we were kind of forced to look at many of the what's the word? They treated them as inconsequential, but they ended up getting consequences, right? So we had a lot of racial issues. We had the indigenous communities who were finally being kind of vindicated and given acknowledgement that their children had been murdered across North America. And with these kinds of really difficult dialogues, we recognized in workplace training solutions that there's a deep need for us to not just realize that it's a problem, but that we need to be part of the solution. And so a way to be a part of the solution when things are so traumatic with the racial institutionalized or systemic racism that's going on in North America specifically, that's my area of expertise. I feel like statistics are showing that the more we keep people informed, the more open they are to change. We have to help make sure that they feel heard. But once we can get them to be in a conversation with us, even if it's just a little one, even if they're being challenging about it, then we can get to a place where we can actually start to address some of the damage that has been done interculturally. And so diversity, equity, and inclusion is this catchphrase that a lot of people kind of shove aside because it's just the word of the year, but this is something that's been happening for 20, 30 years minimum, this conversation that's needed to be happening, where we have to acknowledge that it's not just enough to be colorblind. It's not just enough to say, yeah, that happened, but it wasn't my generation. It's not enough to keep ourselves distanced anymore. We have to be engaged, and in order to do that, we have to start these difficult dialogues. These kinds of difficult dialogues help to build a company culture that's going to be invested in developing a stronger foundation in making sure that all of our processes, our roles, our procedures, our policies are all intentionally designed to make sure that the company culture that we're creating is something that the employees want to be a part of. And
Absolutely.
make everybody feel included in a way that makes them feel like they actually belong to something instead of just doing the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So herein comes the role of leadership. But the leadership has outsourced to many organizations outside. Then what
Correct.
is the role of leadership in bringing, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence into the workplace? Can it be outsourced? Will that solve the problem? Or do leaders have to step up to the occasion and create or give a big example to the employees?
I
Secondly, secondly, because it is so interrelated, we talk about employee engagement. How do you tell the employees that, listen, this engagement is not about productivity and profit, but it is about you and your happiness? How do you put all those together? And I'll tell you, the buck stops with the leadership. And the
1,000%.
buck, it does not end with outsourcing things. How
No.
do you see this? How does this work out? That is where the future will pan out from.
I love this question. I feel like one of the major points that I want to kind of reiterate in what you just said and the claim you just made, it definitely has to start with the leadership. We're in this culture I mentioned a minute ago, where we're in this culture for the last 50 to 100 years, where the boss has been the one who makes all the decisions and who determines everything, and it's a do what I say kind of relationship that they have with their employees, and that has changed in the 21st century. It is evolving. It's not exactly the way it was, but because it's still so ingrained in just the workplace in general, that the boss is the person who makes the decisions to make change, whatever that looks like. It has to start with them. If the owner of the company or the person who's the manager of the department, if the person who's responsible doesn't take responsibility for creating a culture that's going to make every single person in that's under their purview feel like they're a part of this, then it's not going to work. And that's one of the reasons why our company really focuses on the let's talk with the business owner first. Let's interview some of the people who are in the company. Let's make sure we understand what the challenges are. And let's all come to a consensus. All of the decision makers come to a consensus of what we want this company culture to look like. And then I can help create strategies and processes and policies that are going to help them implement them. But it would not be, I'm not the company that actually, I provide the training materials and the solutions. I don't feel like it's possible for me as an outsider to change something that structurally has to change from the inside out. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It can only happen from where it has originated. And we got to look at the root of the problem. So in terms of workplace training solutions, you people are doing a great job, and it must be very painful for you, in spite of it being good business, when companies are into problems and they are sending employees to be trained. It is good business, but as an educator, as an educated person, highly educated person, I can understand it is at the same time painful to see the state of affairs in our workplaces. How do you see this? What do you tell these people, if you at all get a chance? How do you see the future for our people? One of us, all of us are working at one place or the other, and happy workplaces means happy home. So how do you see the future panning out beyond 2023?
Well, I think that I'm optimistic, and I am part of the Great Resignation. I was in the public school system, so I fully understand that that workplaces are, if they're hostile, you don't need to be a part of it. I don't support kind of, feeling obligated to work for a place just because you're being bullied into it, which kind of seems to be a big impetus for the Great Resignation, was this lack of fair treatment with the employees. And so in the future, I hope that the companies are actually starting to listen. I know that the smaller companies are definitely making great changes in the way they build their companies, the startups, the enterprises, and they're making, like, they're starting with this company culture concept and making sure that they create a culture that is going to be sustainable and viable in the future. And so with that respect, the biggest challenges are going to come from the larger corporations, right? From the ones that there's a systemic problem. I can't fix that, but I can help people understand kind of what the value of empowering the employee kind of brings to the company. And one statistic that I tend to use with my discovery calls is that it's the average cost of retraining a new employee is more than $10,000 US for each employee. And so when you have turnover that's super high, you're losing money with every employee that you don't keep retained. So what kind of strategies can you make that isn't going to cost you $10,000 just because you don't know how to do it yet? If I can help you figure out how to do it, right?
Absolutely. If even if the leadership is not able to understand the happiness part of it or the emotional intelligence part of it, at least they understand the profit part of it. They will understand the profit part of it for sure. And that is, in a way, a blessing in disguise and also the hope for the future. But
right.
be that as it may, companies who are serious about this, leaders who are serious about it, how can they connect with you? How can they know more about you, about your company? And how can they get professionally engaged with workplace training solutions? What's the best way to do that?
So the best way to reach out would be to schedule a discovery call with me. Our website, I can put it in the chat, is WTS Workplace Training. Let me type this out. Solutions.com. So it's the name of our company with the WTS in the front. Solutions.
No problem. I will put it also in the show notes so that people can connect with you directly.
Wonderful. So that will explain some. We also have workshops that we are currently, because we're only having tailored workshops, but I'm building off the shelf workshops. So there's a list of the kinds of workshops that I can help provide, either just straight off the shelf, or I can customize it, tailor it for the company and the specific culture that people want. You can learn all about that on the website. And then book online is the slug for scheduling. There you can just find the appointments page, and I will be happy to talk with anyone who's curious about how to change their company culture in 2023.
Wonderful. So whatever the situation is, voices like yours is certainly hope for the future. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. It was great being here.